Hello, I'm Mike, and welcome to the reality of it all. Or I should say, the real reality of it all, because basically this is about the reality of it all. And what is the reality of it all? Well, let me ask you this. Can you really know what's going on? What is our existence all about? Why were you born? What happens when you die? How did everything around us come to be? What's the purpose? Just by accident? Just by itself? The universe? Aliens? Now, hold on. Before you run, I have to let you know that you found it. This is the real deal. You're going to get the real answers to these that you'll prove to yourself. And you're going to know the answer deep down inside. This isn't just going to be an idea or a guess, a belief, or what I think, or what someone else thinks, or what you already think. But these questions can be answered in a way that you're going to know this deep down inside without any doubt, without any questions. You're going to be able to know it. Is it possible? Can these questions be answered? Many people say no. I remember a few years back, I asked an individual, we actually were looking up at the sky as the space station went over through space. And I said, did you ever wonder about how all this came to be? How this existence is so incredible, and here we're watching the space station go over with the stars? And he said, well, sure, everybody's questioned that and wondered that at some point. But you can't answer it. It's not possible to know what's going on. And I said, well, sure it is. And he's like, oh, no, it's just not answerable. And I think that's a lot of times, I think that's where everybody is on that. And that's why I'm saying before you run, because, you're going to think, well, these things aren't answerable. And I'm here to tell you that, yes, it is possible. Now, I don't know how you got here, but like I said before, you've come to the right place. And I can assure you, you won't be led wrong. I have no agenda. This is not a religion. I don't want your money. I don't need your viewership. I'm not after likes or followers or advertising. I'm here because it can be known and people don't know this. And it's not as complicated as you would think, but it is possible. So who am I? Does it matter? I mean, that's how we got here in the first place. Believing in a person with a degree, a doctorate, having a title, supposedly someone who's educated, an expert. Does that make them right? If someone is famous, does that make them right? This isn't about me. This is about you. And I'm not going to tell you what I think or what I believe or what I know. I'm going to help you to think. We're going to look at things together, and you're going to answer them for yourself. We're going to use sound reasoning and logic, common sense. We're going to think for ourselves, question things for ourselves. We're all smart enough to do this if we want to. So, who am I? I want to be your trusted friend, and I know that's earned, and hopefully we get there. So, who is this for? Well, that depends on the kind of person you are. Are you a know it all, full of yourself, arrogant? Are you right now mocking the questions we just talked about? Are you already convinced that it's not possible to answer those kind of questions? Well, then it's not for you. And the funny thing is, is that no matter what, no matter how full of yourself that you are, no matter how in charge and knowing you are, you're going to die. And that's all you got. And all this being in control, all this knowing it all, the money, whatever it is, the arrogance, the pride, you're going to die and it doesn't matter. And that's all you would have ever had. Every one of us is incredible and dynamic for what? Is it for nothing? Just by accident? Look, I really don't care if you don't want to know. But what this is for is this is to give those a chance who really want to know that chance to discover it. Now, because one thing that's happening now more than ever is there are more lies and more deceptions that have taken precedence over everything. It's in every part of our life now, especially with the social media and the artificial intelligence and things like that. Lies and deceptions are going to be put out there or already are out there that are going to look like they're fact, that they're truth, that they're right and real, and people are going to fall for it. And this is a critical time to cross that bridge to what do you want to believe? What do you want to know? And that's why I feel it's really important that we address these things now. People are more distracted now, more than ever, from not even considering what is the existence around them. Everything is now, you're consumed with your phone, you're consumed with the videos, you're consumed with things that take you out of looking at what is the existence around us, the stars and the reality and the creation, if one would consider that. So who is this for? This is for those who really want to get a handle on it and who want to know. So really, let's just get down to the heart of the matter. This is the big question. Do you want to live in fantasy or reality? And what is fantasy? I already kind of started to define that, but basically fantasy is you can have it any way you want. You can just say it, believe it, make believe. It doesn't matter if it's real. It doesn't matter if it's right or wrong. You just want to believe what you want to believe, then believe it. And we're seeing that a lot today with a lot of things. Just to throw something out there, it's on the news not that long ago, it was a little blurb on the radio, but they asked I don't know who the lady was, but can a man have a baby? Oh, yes, a man can have a baby. Okay, really? Show me. Right? That's fantasy. Can a man be a woman? Can a woman be a man? Oh, today I'm a man, or I'm going to be a dog. That's all the fantasy. Do you want to live in that fantasy or the reality? You have free will and choice. So if you want to live in the fantasy, by all means, go live in the fantasy. And if you want to know what is and what's really happening, then you're going to take a hard look at the reality. And to live in the reality or to know the reality, it takes responsibility for yourself. So not only does the question is, do you want to live in fantasy or reality? What do you want to be responsible? Because it takes a lot of responsibility to live in reality and really answer the questions of what is and what's existing around you. I'm not here to debate. I'm here to guide you on a journey of how to think and how to decipher things. You make your choices, and you basically are faced with the decision, very similar or exactly. I know people use this a lot, but the matrix, do you want the red pill or the blue pill? And that's really the question that it comes down to. So as you consider, like, even in the Matrix, like there was one scene where the guy, so you had the choice between the red pill or blue pill, knowing the reality or continuing to live in the fantasy. And there was one person in that movie that chose to live in the reality, and then he didn't like it. It was too much for him. He couldn't handle it. So he said, I want to go back. And there was one scene where he's sitting there eating a steak, and he goes, I know this steak isn't real, but it's really good. And he chose to live in the fantasy, and you can do that. So that brings us to maybe a further look at this, like, how does knowing the reality of it all help you? What are the benefits? Will it make you rich? I not so much, but let's look at the benefits, and living with some of these benefits can help you in your life, but no, it's not going to make you. But here are some of the benefits of living in the reality or knowing what is outside of yourself. You are more content. You're more confident because you know what's happening. You don't live in fear. There's no fear anymore because you know what is, and you live in that control of it. So you don't have the fear of the unknown because you know. You have peace. You have joy. You even have a hope because you know what's going on. And the people that are so negative and filled with drama around you and have all this fear, they don't have hope because they don't know why things are the way they are. They don't know why they're born. They don't know why things exist the way they exist. You have less stress. Um, you have knowledge. You have knowledge that just surpasses into wisdom. And this knowledge you have is such a great understanding that you become more knowledgeable than professors and theologians and philosophers because you're dealing in a reality that is outside of an idea or a guess or what someone says the way things are. You're dealing with what is. And I always get a real good kick out of psychiatry because my wife started to study psychiatry, and I saw and listened to some of the things she was studying. And it was like, from what little bit I could gather, it was basically all based on the ideas of certain people like Freud and these guys. They just came up with what they theorized is how things happen. Now, some of the stuff was more scientific stuff was correct, but half the stuff was just whatever they said, you know, not on a basis of why we exist, why things are the way they are. Another benefit is you make better decisions in your life because you can filter things that you're deciding through that reality. You're happy. You're happier. You're more patient because you're not living in fear and you're not stressed over things. You can have, some immediate concerns or stress, but that gets, tampered down and smoothed out with the patience you have because of this wisdom that you've gained. And so you can handle things in your life like big catastrophic things like death. You can handle death better because you're going to know what happens when you die. And right now, some of you may be scoffing, like, oh, people don't know that. That's all just guesses. Well, if you can follow this through to its fruition, I guarantee you're going to know what happens when you die, which is mind-boggling. I mean, let me jump ahead to something that I'll repeat myself, but I'm going to jump ahead to one comment here. If you can follow this through, and you can make the path to answer things outside of yourself into reality, and you can make it all the way through this, it's going to be absolutely incredible. It's going to be mind-boggling, but it's going to be incredible, and you're going to have to fight yourself. But I'm just jumping ahead of myself a little bit, but I just want you to know right now that the benefits of this is incredible. Now, what are some of the disadvantages to knowing the reality or living in the reality of it all. Well, one of the disadvantages is you have to take responsibility for yourself. It's people don't want to. A lot of people don't want to do that. They'd rather live in the fantasy or be told what to think or just operate in a world where they don't ever consider things and they don't have to take responsibility for themselves. It's someone else's fault. It's not it, I'm the victim. I don't have to be responsible for myself. I can believe what I want and so what? Who cares what what I think or what I do? And so yeah, one of the disadvantages is you have to take on responsibility. Another disadvantage is it takes a lot of effort. Because you're going to have to battle yourself, and even though the rewards are incredible, it takes effort to discover these things and to know it, because everything around you is trying to take you away from it and trying to tell you that this isn't the way it is. This is how it is. We all believe this. You can't believe that. You won't be friends with us. You won't be counted. But this can be your effort secretly known to you. You don't have to always tell everyone what you're thinking or what you know, but you can confidently know it inside. And so, yes, one of the disadvantages, it takes a lot of effort. And the last thing that I would consider disadvantages, probably for the first time in your life, you got to think for yourself. Um, no one does the thinking for you to know these things, because if they do, it doesn't go down the path of reality. It goes down the path of fantasy and how they want it, not the way it is. And that's the backbone of this whole topic of reality, is that it's not what someone thinks. It's not what you think. It's not how you want it to be. It's not what they want it to be. It's what is, what exists outside of that. And I'll be repeating myself, and we're going to cross that shortly again. But that's one of the disadvantages: responsibility, effort, think for yourself. But the benefits are so incredible, and it just helps you so much in this life and with how you react to this life and how you feel and act. So the question is, do you want to take the red pill? Are you ready to move forward? Or are you a dissenter and you just want to live in fantasy? Go ahead and do that. Like I said, it doesn't matter to me. But for those that want to move forward, let's right now take a moment to set up the framework, set up the ground rules, so to speak, to start laying this foundation of how we're going to systematically go through this and the process that we're going to take. Now, like I said, I'm going to repeat myself a lot, because I'll repeat myself on the points that are incredibly important to help us in our thinking and setting up the foundation we need to filter everything through. And this is not going to be quick. This is going to take a while. And yes, we've been already talking for quite a bit here, but this is you're not getting the answer right now, because there isn't a simple direct answer. Oh, this is the reality of it all. This takes a whole process and journey to start to set a foundation where we start putting things in place that we can filter things through. And once this foundation starts to get set, we can't deviate from it, because we've already proven to ourselves that that it's in place and that it can't be denied. So, like I said, it's going to take a while, but this is the only way that we can go through this to properly really know this stuff. It can't be dismissed so easily. So, one of the first things we would need to do is we need to get some terminology straight. One would say that what we're trying to do is discover the truth, or we are trying to speak the truth. But the problem with the word truth is it's lost its meaning, because people no longer use truth in a way that is supposed to be according to its meaning. So the real meaning of truth is what is outside of yourself and others. The real meaning of truth is what exists outside of what you think, what you believe, or what someone else thinks or believes. But the word truth today is used in a way that it's true to whatever that person thinks or whatever you think. Oh, this is the truth because I think. Well, that's not the definition of truth, but that's the way truth is used today is, well, it's truth because I believe it. Well, it doesn't matter what you think, because the real definition of truth is, and I'll repeat, is what is outside of you, what exists outside of you or anyone else, what is. Like an example, the sun rises in the east and the sun sets in the west, that's truth. If you want to believe that it's opposite and it rises in the west, that's fantasy. So it doesn't matter what you think. The sun's going to do what the sun does and always has done outside of you. That's truth. So instead of using the word truth, which is, and religion has really distorted the word truth because they've misinterpreted things from the Bible and made it their truth. And they say, this is the truth. And then take a partial truth of this, and then they add in something they want to believe. And then here we go down a path of, oh, this is the real truth, where there's no truth in it after a while at all anymore. So let's, through our process here, through our journey, let's not use the word truth, but let's use the word reality. And that's what we're going to use. So the definition of reality is what is really real, what is really happening, what exists outside of you. And let's go down this path using the term reality. And then what we're going to do is, like I said, we're going to set up this foundation where we're going to look at different topics, and we're going to ask ourselves different questions, and we're going to break them down into small little questions or topics, and we're going to turn it. Instead of just looking at it like that, we're just going to take this and we're going to turn it just a little bit. And we're going to look at it again through the eyes of sound reasoning and logic, and through what is outside of you, not what you want it to be, but what actually is. And we're going to take these little nuggets, so to speak, as we discover them, and it'll be so obvious what the answer is, and then we're going to set that into the foundation, and then we're going to set more and more and more of those pieces. So then as we continue to look at different topics and different ideas and different questions that we want to answer, we're going to filter that through this foundation that we already have proven to be what is, not what we want it to be, but what it is. And you can't be denied, because it's already shown itself to be what really exists, what really is happening, what the real little truth of that, or the reality of that, is. And what happens is we filter through that, and then it keeps building on itself, and we keep stocking up these answers, and that becomes the reality of what this life is, and what questions we want to filter through that, and it can't be denied. And you get the real true answer, or the real reality of it, to answer that. So what if I asked you this question? How do you know what you know? Because right now you're like, your mind's reeling, because you're like, I'm throwing all this stuff out there and making you question what you already think about things and have already answered for yourself and compartmentalized and put into a spot. And we're going to now be pulling those things out and looking at them. But let me ask you this: how do you know what you know? What got you to those answers or those decisions on life and on topics and different things? The answer is, well, someone told you. Ultimately, I mean, someone told you how things came to be. If you have an answer on that, they tell you that there's evolution. They tell you that everything evolved. They tell you that, whatever topic you want to bring up, they tell you how to think on it, and it's accepted. But does that make it right? Did you ever think about it? Did you ever question it? I mean, if everyone believes something, but in reality, it can be clearly shown and seen that it's not what everyone believes, it's different, does that make it right? And then if you question them, well, this is what we believe. Well, does that make it right? If everyone wants to believe something, even though you can really show that, well, it's not really that way, but everyone believes it, so it has to be right, and I got to believe it. Well, there you go. You're right off track again, and you're not going to be able to have that foundation. So you got to really challenge yourself and decide. I know this isn't for everyone, and I don't want everyone to, well, I shouldn't say it that way. I know this isn't for everyone. I would want everyone to be able to understand this, but I really realistically know that actually, you know what I really think about this? I don't think people can make it through this. People are filled with self prejudices and too much influence from others that have created so-called truths, and they don't have the moxie, the guts to challenge it and take it through to the end. I think that we're so filled with a pride and a selfishness and a prejudice that we can't humble ourselves, that we can't open our mind, and it takes a constant battle to consider these things and to go against what everyone would believe when it comes to that point where there's it's directly opposed or for certain reasons. So how do you know what you know? It's because of your culture, your influence, how you grew up, what people taught you, what you were taught in schools. And when you did consider these questions, like the story I previously told you about when we were looking up at the space station going over, that people did consider these at some point, and you made a decision and you compartmentalized it. Some people were, well, it can't be answered, and just left it at that. Well, this whole discussion is for the person that really wants to make a serious effort to know, and it's going to go against you. It's it's going to go against everything that you've been taught, and there's going to be reasons for your prejudices. There's going to be reasons that you want to fight this, and you have to make that decision if you want to continue. And to be honest with you, as we really progress, there's going to be some huge hurdles and obstacles that are going to come up where you're not going to want to go down that path or think about it. And I'll encourage you to leave. Like I said, I'm not here to debate. And if you can't um, overcome certain obstacles, then there's no point in it, because this is there's no halfway, there's no partial reality. It's all follows and goes one path, and it goes against a lot of things you already believe, and goes against what people will tell you what to believe. So the the question is, can you follow where it goes, especially when it's not the way you want it to be? Can you open your mind? Can you humble yourself? Can you fight this constant battle? Are you willing to do it? Because like I had said earlier, it's absolutely incredible where it goes. Um, I'll give you my experience when I started down this path a number of years ago. Um, when I embarked on it, I clearly told myself before I started that I'm going to follow this where this goes. I'm going to open my mind. And if it goes against something that I always thought the way it should be, or the way I believed it to be, or the way I was taught that it would be, that I'm going to not close it down. Because I knew the minute if I did that, I'd be confused, and I would be lost in the path I was trying to find, which is, the reality of it all. What is really happening? What's really going on? I wanted to know, outside of everything that everybody said, outside of religions, outside of it all, the answers had to be there. And believe me, they are there. And I found them all. And this is the thing I want to impart to you, is that as I started down this path, I constantly came up against, like, well, this isn't what I thought. And there was many times I had to stop and tell myself, okay, I'm going to follow where this goes, because this is what it is. And I had to fight myself. And then as I fought myself through different things, but like I said, I built this foundation, and I couldn't deny it because I already proved it to myself. As I filtered more and more through that, it all started to make more sense, and everything like connected. The things that I didn't want to believe connected. And then it all became more and more conclusive, and it just adhered together, and it's like the light started to really go on. And then this was the craziest thing about it. It took me at least a year, maybe longer, to wake up every day and be like, wow, this really is the way it is. This is what's happening, because it was so opposite of what the world was around me um, coming at me with. Like the things, the immediate things of this world, of this life, the immediate things of what I had to deal with day to day was so opposed to me knowing what's really happening that it took me a good year to wake up every morning and be like, oh, this is really, really happening. This is the real reality. This is, I'll say the word, this is the real truth. And, and then after, after really having to force myself to really like, wow, I can't deny this, even though I want to, and every force outside of me wants me to not know this. It took me a good year to finally get that ingrained in me, and wow, I feel great. What a peace I have to be able to go through this life and know what's happening, know what's going on, know why things are happening the way they're happening. And this is really exciting because as we get further along with this and build it, we can put more and more questions and things that's happening in this world through there and really get to see why things are happening this way, why people act this way, why this is happening in politics, why this is happening in the world, why this is happening in my life, and why people are suffering and different things. And it's just such a great feeling to just know that and be able to filter everything that you have to deal with through that and have a full content life now, not living in fear and knowing these things. So let's just take a little break here, and we'll start on the next segment of the real reality of it all.